right now I want to say finding a therapist is like dating. I remember we did talk about that, right?
It really is.
You go on a couple of dates and you're like, girl, I don't know if he's it. You're like, bro, I don't know. And then you find your one, you find your therapist, and everything makes sense. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Who Can Relate. Today is going to be probably my best episode to date. This is no knock on any guest I've had. It's just that what we're going to be talking about today it hits home for me in a way that I can't even explain it. And it is the sole resource tool that I have had that I use that works time and time again. It's changed my life. So I brought on, because she did hit me up and asked to come on. I'm not going to say bombard.
For the record, I bombarded. It's okay to say bombard. I'm here for that word.
Okay. I have a licensed therapist, which is just an honor. I'm so humbled. Mom, I made it kind of thing. It's crazy. But yeah, let me give the full bio, because I love when people have so much I have to print it out. So let me introduce my guest, Miss Kiaundra Jackson. She is known as America's #1 relationship therapist. Ooh, that has to feel good. She has been seen on OWN's new hit TV show Love Goals and is a recurring expert on the doctors. She's been recently featured in Oprah's Magazine, Essence, Women's Health, the New York Times, Fox, CBS, BET, the HuffPost, and as one of the 10 black female therapists you should know. She's an award-winning speaker, best-selling author, TV personality, and a trusted licensed marriage and family therapist that gets results. She's a noted expert on healthy relationships and mental health. Miss Kiaundra Jackson. It is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Like, we were talking about imposter syndrome. Like, every time somebody reads my bio, I literally feel like that's not me. I feel like they're talking about someone else, literally.
And I don't, there's not author on here. Oh, there is. Best-selling author, because you've written 5 books?
5.
5 books.
5, yeah.
Okay. And here's the... I don't want to get people's hopes up, but like for right now, Kiaundra's not taking clients, but shoot your shot still. I'm gonna get influx.
You're gonna get influx. Million calls, emails, DMs.
Just wait till after this.
Even if people can't reach me for therapy, there's always other resources that I have, right? I have a couples network. I have all types of things that they can stay connected with me on, books. I do webinars, all kind of stuff.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was doing my background on you yesterday, and you have courses.
I do.
You have a lot of courses.
I do have a lot of courses.
Like, I'm gonna buy the keynote speaker course.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I need this. And then again, marital course. You got a lot.
I do have a lot, because people see all the things that I do, especially therapists, right? Like, a lot of therapists don't really do as much as I do, right? They just like, nope, I'm going to stay in my office, see clients, and that's it.
Exactly.
But I get a lot of people who want to have a broader reach.
Yep.
And so they're like, how do you do this speaker thing, Kiaundra? Help me. And so I started to create courses. And so that's one of the things that I love to do on the side, is like to really help new and emerging speakers.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you're not a therapist, like if you're just like, let me learn some stuff, like, holla at your girl.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, you have more to offer, which is great, and hopefully, you have some room to add people to your clientele list.
It's a blessing. That's all I can say. Right?
It's a good problem to have.
There's probably therapists who are desperate for clients.
For sure. Okay, so let's give a little bit more background. So we just mentioned the accolades, which are heavy, which are great. You are born and raised in LA.
Compton. CPT.
Which is such a rare thing, because this, like, LA is just a transplant city now.
It is.
So to be from here, like born and raised, like, that's dope. So go ahead.
Born
Compton.
and raised here. Like, I know nothing else.
Wow.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, because people are shocked when they say, like, are you from here? I'm like, yes, I'm literally from here. Like,
not lying.
Like, my family's from here. Like, everyone's here.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty dope, and I guess you can say, to have someone who comes from a place that's known for not so good things all the time. I mean, there's some dope people that come out of Compton,
of course.
right?
Yeah,
we can drop all the names, but it has a history of not being so great. And, to get the opportunity to do all the things that I do and to say that I come from Compton, like, it really gives other girls, boys, whoever.
Totally. Yeah, it's deeper meaning.
Yeah.
For sure.
They're like, yo, if she can do it, is she from Compton? Like, I can do it too.
For sure.
So that's why. That's the driving force for me too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one of those things where you see it on TV or you see it, wherever, and you're like, yeah, they probably come from this. You're like, actually, no, this is the situation. Like you said, if I can do it, you can do it, which is super empowering.
But trust me, my story wasn't, it wasn't peaches. Let's be clear about that. And that's another episode for another day. Or when I write my autobiography, you'll get the full story. But it wasn't always great, you know? And I think that's also what fuels me to keep going, because it's like, you know what? I got to break all of these generational patterns and cycles in my family that is just not cool.
Well, don't fast forward in the episode now, because we're going to get into all this. I love it. Okay, so again, the overall premise of this episode is all things therapy. Probably more of an emphasis on marital therapy, relationship therapy. I want to start off by, it's funny you said that Compton sometimes has a bad rep. I think therapy has a bad rep. I think when, at least for me growing up, because I've been in therapy since I was 9. And so I was so embarrassed to tell people I was in therapy. Whether it's because of how young I was and, none of my friends were going through it. And then also just being a guy, I was like, you definitely ain't going through it. So it bothers me that people have this negative stereotype for therapy. And the other thing is maybe they think something's wrong with me, or I've hit rock bottom, or it's not cool to say I go. But why is it cool to go to therapy? I want to ask you. I know it's like a dumb question, but I think it'll help out a lot of people, at least make them feel like maybe I can do this.
Yeah, I don't think it's a dumb question at all.
Okay.
I think it has a very unique spin, because oftentimes, like you said, therapy is given a bad rap.
Right.
I think therapy is super cool. Like, I want it to be like the newest, coolest thing ever. I want all the kids to be like, if you don't have therapy, you suck.
You're right.
Like, that's what I wanted to, that's the energy that I wanted to have. And I think what you're saying is really like, what are some of the benefits of like going to therapy, right? And for me, and especially the work that I do, I mean, I guess you can say as a whole, increased awareness for sure, being able to verbalize your thoughts, your feelings, to set firm boundaries, and to keep the consistency of the boundaries, definitely healthier relationships, whether that is romantic or non-romantic.
Right.
Self-care. I mean, the list goes on and on for me, but I can say that all day.
Sure.
It's like people have to experience it for themselves in order for it to be like, oh, this is what this really, really is. And so just go, just try it.
Yeah, I think
try it.
For me, you're right. It had to be my own personal experience. And I would never sell something that I didn't believe in. That's why I don't do half the Instagram people that hit me up. Like, would you mind selling this? I'm like, nah, I'm not about that life. But for me, I will sell the hell out of therapy. And I'm not getting paid for it. It's just like, I just know it
free
works.
$99.
It's this free game. Like, here you go. And I said, on the top of the episode that therapy changed my life. I'll go into it a little bit later. But when I started to get answers to my questions, when I started to be able to, more importantly, especially as a man, articulate my feelings with my words and not anger, right?
Love it.
Because anger is the easiest emotion to show. And for me, it would always be that. I would have all these thoughts and these feelings, but I wouldn't take the time to break down what this means, right? Like, let's find the root of this. Where is this coming from? Odds are it's probably not even the person I'm dealing with. It's probably some childhood stuff.
Yep.
Therapy did this for me. It took out all of my childhood stuff, laid it on the table, and every single week was like, Justin, what do you want to talk about today? Oh, you want to pick that one up? Yeah, go ahead, pick that up. Let's talk about how you were abandoned. And I'm like, whoa. Everything started to make sense. And for me, that is everything to me. There's nothing worse than having all this confusion, whether it's in your head or your heart, and not being able to articulate it. More importantly, not being able to feel like people can understand you. Therapy understands you.
I want to also say too, like, you can go to therapy and be really willing and ready, but sometimes different therapists have have a different style.
Sure.
So you need to make sure that you find a therapist that's a good fit for you.
Right.
That's the main
How do you
thing.
do that? Let's go there.
So and to be completely transparent, like I come across a lot of people who give up in the process.
Okay.
Because it's not always easy, right?
Sure.
For some people, they go to the first person and it clicks.
Sure.
It's great. But for me, even because I believe every therapist should have a therapist, by the way, just for the record. We did talk about this?
I don't know. I keep thinking about right now. I want to say finding a therapist is like dating. I remember we did talk about that, right?
It really is.
You go on a couple of dates and you're like, girl, I don't know if he's it. You're like, bro, I don't know. And then you find your therapist, and everything makes sense. But go ahead, finish your point.
Absolutely, 100%. And so for me, it took 7 different therapists of me calling, having the little free phone consultations just to see if it's a good fit, going to the office for that first session.
Yeah.
And I just knew something, like if it's something that's a little off for me, I'm like, no, right? But when I met my therapist, and for the record, I don't even know if I've ever said this publicly, my therapist is not a woman of color. She's not a person of color.
Okay.
She is white, and she gets me. And I think right now we are in this space where everybody's like, oh, Black therapists. And y'all know I'm here for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Therapists of color are out there, but for me, it's not always about that. That person needs to get you. They need to understand you.
Sure.
There needs to be good synergy.
Sure.
And she was just that for me,
that's beautiful.
And I've been with her for probably since I was in graduate school, so a decade or so,
Wow.
and I
for
haven't really seen anyone else during this process. And so that's important, making sure that there is a good fit there.
So what happens if someone, again, because you could be so closed off going to therapy, and maybe I'm only here because my wife told, whatever it is.
All the time.
And unfortunately, but it's episodes like this. Hopefully that changes that. But what happens when the guy just comes home or the girl comes home and they're like, she wasn't it or he wasn't it? But is it how do you know if because it's just because you're closed off or because it wasn't truly a good fit?
I think that's a really hard, especially if you're the spouse, there's really no way to determine that unless you're physically present inside of the therapy room.
Sure.
But I think it's just an internal knowing.
Okay.
And hopefully if the person is in a phase where they're actually attempting to go, hopefully when they get to the spot where it's kind of like that sweet spot and they feel like someone is that person for them, that it'll click. There may be a little apprehension, you know, to go. I've had clients who are just like, I don't know about this therapy thing, but I'm going to fill you out for a few sessions. And I'm like, bet. And then now they're loving me.
Exactly.
And they're making so much progress. And they're like, oh my God, I should have been opened up.
Sure.
The first
long time ago.
Yeah. So
let me ask you this, because this is something that I have realized, luckily not the hard way, but a friend of mine told me, I used to look up to, and still do, look up to his marriage as relationship goals, marriage goals. And I remember when I found out that they go to therapy. And I was like, oh no. I was single at the time. I'm like, there's no hope. They got problems too. I'm like, I'm staying single. See, and I asked him, and I said, you guys go to therapy? What's going on? Are you okay? And he said, why would you just automatically assume that we're not? And I was like, when you go to therapy, man, it's you hit rock bottom, and it's just, I have my own stereotype. And he said, no, we go to therapy to maintain what you consider relationship goals.
Ooh.
And he put me in my
Say that
place
again, because that is.
He said, I'm going to therapy to maintain what you consider relationship goals, what you consider as I want to have what they have. It's just like the gym, okay? I consider, in a lot of ways, therapy sessions as gym sessions. No one ever regrets a workout.
Ever.
I have never one time regretted a therapy session. I don't care if I couldn't even see because I was crying so hard. That was the best one, okay? The other thing is once you start to see results in the gym, you're like, okay, I'm feeling myself. I look good. Okay, I got it. I see you. You're not just going to stop going. And if you do, what's going to happen? You'll bring the weight back on. Absolutely. You're not going to feel as good. So what happens in therapy when you stop going? The problems continue to go. My wife and I go to therapy on the best days of our marriage and on the worst days of our marriage and everything in between. But correct me if I'm wrong. When people go to therapy, odds are it's when it's too late.
Yeah, there's a statistic that says married couples or those in relationship, particularly married couples, they go to counseling 7 years too late.
7 years?
7 years too late. First of all, hopefully you even make it to 7 years.
Right.
But if you do pass that threshold, you're already going 7 years past the threshold. So people come to me, sitting on my couch talking about stuff that they should have dealt with 7, 8 years ago. And it's just like, bro, sis, like what is really going on here, But it speaks to how we just let things fester, how we just sweep things under the rug and we don't address them as quickly as we should. And that's why I always tell couples, address issues as quickly as you can, right? Doesn't have to be exactly in that moment, but just whether it's that night, the next morning, don't wait 10 years and say, 20 years ago, you said this and that to me. And it's just like, I didn't know you were still holding on to so much.
So let me ask you, my immediate follow-up question is, how do you know whether it's just nitpicking or it is something that you actually do want to bring up in hopes that your partner can recognize it, be aware of it, and hopefully apply the necessary changes?
My thing is all about like patterns and consistency, right? So if you see that your partner is saying the same thing over and over again, it can be the sock on the floor, or it can be you not managing the finances of the home, whatever, little, big, small. But if that's the same theme thing that gets mentioned over and over again, it's not nitpicky. It's probably a bigger issue.
Kiaundra,
right?
hold on a second.
Did I Okay, so take a deep breath.
Make the bed. Okay, close the closet door. Okay, got it. I told you. Okay, got it. Damn. So Shay's been telling me the same stuff over and over. Okay, cool. Got it.
It's so funny because even when we were having the conversation before this podcast on our pre-call and we were talking about that jar, remember we were talking about the things that you can kind of like put, that's like one of the things. Like sometimes you don't always want to say, oh my God, you didn't put the sock in the dirty clothes this time. But maybe if you wrote it down, it would be different.
So more on that, I was telling you that my mother-in-law actually gave us this beautiful gift and idea where it's 2 boxes, one's for me, one's for my wife. And we have note cards that we put into the box that are kind of just, we don't need to talk about it. Just, put this in your memory bank.
Yep.
Just keep an eye on this, or just remember this. And it could be, hey, I really would love for you to work on this. Let me write it down. Let me date it. Let me throw it in there. Or it could be, I love that you cooked dinner, that you cleaned up. I had a long day. I really appreciate your acts of service.
I love how it's positive too.
Yeah, it could be positive. Exactly. Positive or negative. And here's the beauty of both. You know how when you're in the funk and you're in the moment of conflict and you're lacking hindsight and you're like, you didn't say that. You didn't tell me that. Well, now I can go to my little box. Not only pull that out, but it's like got the date on it.
You should put the time too.
I want to get a stamp. I want to stamp it. You know what I'm saying? So that it helps.
It helps write it in pen so people can't erase it.
Exactly. It helps out. And, the overall premise of it was just so that you don't have to suppress your feelings. You can, write it out. You can just let it out. Because a lot of times too, you just need to let it out, and it doesn't need to be spoke, about moving forward. So I want to go into something that has, funny enough, my relationship therapist from my last relationship gave me, and I always go to it every single time someone is complaining about the relationship. I say, you have to read the book Attached. So the book Attached, if you guys are listening, is by the author Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. I will put in the show notes, and if you guys are watching, here it is.
I feel like they should reach out to you and give you like a coupon code or an affiliate link.
Oh, look at you, marketing for me. Appreciate you.
You probably get a lot of people who download that.
You know what? Someone told me recently, like, I need to have an Amazon store. And I need to have all of these things that I keep. Right? I know.
There you go.
I
know. Even Bookshop. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Cool.
We'll talk about that offline.
So, the book Attached. Really quick for me, this book, as I have self-proclaimed it to be, the Bible of relationships. Everything made sense with this book, from myself, from my partner, from my past, from my present, and then obviously from my future, where I want to be in relationship. It was probably the hardest mirror I've ever had to look in. I mean, it made me cry. It made me mad. It made me question.
Yeah.
And it gave me so much clarity above all. So I can't wait to dive into this. What is your experience with this book?
So I fully agree with you on that. to be 100% honest with you, if you have not read the book, you definitely need to. And it's so good that you can probably read it in one sitting.
Oh, yeah.
But that is the premise and a lot of the foundation of what I talk to my clients about and my couples.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand attachment, and I honestly feel like we don't talk about attachments enough, period, across the board when we talk about relationships, even like childhood, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So this is the foundation of every single relationship, and you cannot have a healthy relationship without understanding your attachment style and the attachment style of your partner or partner to be or whatever.
Yep.
So there's so many different types of attachment styles that are out there. I'm sure your people are already familiar with it because you love the book so much that you have probably mentioned it to them. Yeah. But you know, should we even?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So there are 3.
Because I feel like I just took over. I was like, I just became the host.
Listen, hey, first of all, you're the licensed professional here. I need just remind me to shut up every now and then. I'm just trying to guide you for the people. Okay, so I just wanted to go over the 3, we'll call them popular attachment styles, and then maybe you and I can identify which one we have.
Ooh.
Humbly so. And then I will get into an attachment style that I don't believe was in the book. It's like a subtopic of one of the attachment styles. Okay. The 3 attachment styles are, first and foremost, anxious. Oh, that sigh, boy. Woo.
I took a deep breath.
Now,
I'm anxious.
Full disclosure, ladies, most women are anxious.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it. The second attachment style, in no particular order, is avoidant. Fellas.
This is for you.
Most men are avoidant. We will talk about it. And then the last attachment style that is, again, of the popular 3 is secure. What we all strive to be. So
that's supposedly the healthy one, right?
The healthy one.
That's the one.
So again, it's anxious, most women, avoidant, most men, secure, the goal. Now, a couple more things in here. If you don't have the book yet, this is what you can do, and I will leave the link below. You guys can take the quiz. You can go online, take the quiz. I believe it's like, there's 2. Make sure you take the longer one. I think it's the 33 questions is the better one.
So
I think there's a 16 one. Take the 33 one. But here's the thing when you take the quiz. You have to be honest with yourself when you take this quiz. And also, don't take this quiz as, I'll just use myself, single Justin or relationship Justin or marital Justin. Just take it as Justin and be completely honest. That way you're going to get your best results. And then lastly, and then Kiaundra, it's all yours. I want to say that there's a pie chart with your attachment styles. Yep. Okay. So you could be like 60% avoidant and you can be 30% anxious and 10% secure. So don't think it's just like, oh, I'm doomed. I'm this and only this. So let's get into it.
I love that you just mentioned that, though, because I often think that when we put these, I guess we can call them labels or styles on people, they feel like that's the only thing that they are, that they will ever be. They can never be securely attached or healthy, like they're just doomed, right? And I'm glad that you said that there's percentages and things that you can do to shift and change and be better no matter which category you find yourself in.
Yes.
Even if you're secure, that doesn't mean you're perfect.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. So let's get into what we may be. Now,
I already know what I am. Woo!
Okay. So why don't you tell the people, Kiaundra, what you are?
So and this may surprise people because people feel like when you're a therapist that you're supposed to have your life perfect. You're supposed to, all of your trauma should be resolved. And you should never get upset that you're just the best human being on the planet, which is the furthest thing from the truth.
Exactly.
Most therapists are jacked up, which is why we get into this field. Let's be real.
And I appreciate you saying that, but like you said earlier, every therapist should have a therapist.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, every barber has a barber.
Facts.
Carry on.
So I have an anxious attachment style.
Okay. My first question is, why?
To be honest with you, I can go all the way back to my childhood. And I think that this is where it originates for everyone. Mm-hmm. And then when we get older and we get into relationships, it just shows up and just rears its head. Yep. So for me, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. My father, there was a time period where he was on drugs. He was physically abusive to my mom. Verbally abusive for sure. So my parents got divorced when I was 10. So there was just in and out.
Sure.
You're here one moment, not here. My dad was also a cross-country truck driver. So he would physically be here for like a week or two, and then he would be gone for a time period.
Yeah.
And this was my primary person who was supposed to show me love, affection, and to show me how a man is supposed to treat me, right? And so I think that is why I have an anxious attachment style, because of how my dad and how my parents were with me. Not purposely, right? They were doing the best they knew how to do, right? And I tell my mom and dad this when they hear me talk about them all the time on, TV and podcasts. They were doing the best that they could, but it definitely had a negative impact on me and on my older sibling. So when I became older and got into relationships, it was just like, I love you. Are you going to leave me? Please tell me you love me. I need that reassurance, because that was all I knew, this in and out type of energy. And I had to work on that big time. And it shows up from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
You're human.
But I think I have a good handle on it now, or at least I know when it's popping up and I'm like, whoa, Kiaundra, let me check myself here. This is real
so
anxious.
Important. So important. Yeah. And you have the tools to
Thank goodness
tackle
for tools.
First of all, I appreciate you sharing that. If no one knows what this show is called, it's called Who Can Relate? And
so don't judge me.
I can relate to you heavily. Almost to a T. My dad was way more out than in my life, was physically, mentally, verbally abusive to my mom. So that's in large part of the abandonment issues for me. And also, my mom, people probably know by now, and I should disclaim to my mom, but she doesn't know how to watch YouTube or listen to podcasts. So for now, I'm good. But like, still, I probably should. Yeah,
Mom, I talk about you from time to time.
Yeah, once I get the big time show, But anyways, here's something my therapist gave me recently, because I don't know about you, but I used to hold a lot of resentment towards my mom. Funny enough, not so much my dad, because I didn't have any expectation for him. But my mom, to me, for a long time, and still kind of is, superwoman. So I had her on the highest pedestal. So I'm like, you should be performing at the highest level. Yeah. You should be giving me everything I need, because you are that woman, right? And so therefore I was constantly disappointed. And my therapist said, Justin, here's the thing, man. You got to understand something. Your mom did the best she could for you. And it wasn't enough. And that's okay. Kiaundra, that sentence or two made me look at my mom in a way different light.
Yeah.
It made me love her more, see her differently in the best way possible, and appreciate her so much more. People, listen right now. Your parents are doing and or did the best they could. And large part of that is based on how they were raised.
Absolutely.
We live in a day and age right now. My wife is quick to always remind me, give your mom some slack here. Give your dad some slack here. We live in a day and age right now where therapy is becoming cool, okay? I am the president of the Vulnerable is Sexy Club for Men. It's different nowadays. There's podcasts. There's audiobooks. There's webinars. It's all over the place. Like, if you can't get it together now, come on, kind of thing. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. My whole point is, back then, therapy was definitely not cool. Men definitely did not talk about their feelings and their emotions. So for us to be so critical and harsh on our parents, because what we would do, quote unquote, in whatever situation, we can't do that. So we have to give some type of grace. So again, your parents did and are doing the best that they can. And it may not be enough, but that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think the older we get, the more we realize things.
Yeah.
This literally, and you just reminded me of something when you said this. And I haven't told my mom this yet, but I'm going to tell her like today.
Mom, I hope you're watching.
She's also not a tech savvy person, so she would never listen to this, which is great. Yeah. But I realized that she also is very anxious.
Okay.
Hers just shows up very differently than mine. Hers is more control. This isn't where it needs to be. You didn't do this right when you said you didn't take up the trash. Why is this here? Like very much trying to control what she can.
Sure.
And she doesn't realize that that's also a form of anxiety. But that's also why I've struggled with anxiety.
What's your mom's name? We might have the same mom.
Miss Jackson.
I'm like, yo.
Woo, I am for real.
That is so much my mom. Mm-hmm. But it's important to, again, make sure we emphasize this. In large part, the reason why you have the attachment styles that you have is because of childhood. It is either what you were given or what you lacked in childhood. Yeah. My mom is a avoidant anxious. My dad is probably 90% avoidant, 10% anxious. And so again, it rubbed off on me. I definitely had the fear of abandonment. I had the fear, are you going to leave me? How long are you staying for? And they're like, we just met. I used to have this thing with women where I would have essentially a checklist in my head. They didn't know this, but well, maybe they did, but I had a checklist in my head. And with certain questions, I needed, if I was going to stay with you, the right answer. And if you didn't give me some type of the reassurance I was looking for, I was going to avoid you. Because I was so scared of intimacy. I was so scared of letting you in, because every single person that I let into my life that I loved the hell out of and that I thought loved me left. And that leads me to say, and I said this last week, and I'm glad I actually remembered it now because I didn't really clarify it. I don't trust marriage. And the first time I said that was 2 weeks ago.
Wow. In
marital therapy with my wife and our therapist. Now, people are probably thinking, what the hell was Shay? Was Shay like, wait, you what now? And I said, honey, this is the first time I'm saying this out loud, but if I'm being honest, I don't trust marriage. I never saw it with my own eyes. I watched it on TV. I watched it in movies, but I never saw it. I never felt it. I never had the example. And I said, but here's why I married you. One of the reasons why I married you. I knew in my soul, in my heart of hearts, if I was ever going to achieve something that I've never even seen before, it was going to be with you.
I love it.
It was going to be with you. I'm trusting you with my heart. I'm trusting you with everything I got. Please, let's make this work, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I say all that to say, and I want to get into more in detail the attachment styles. For the women I know, especially, it's a large female following. What we're going to talk about is going to clear up a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want to say this. You guys have to be ready for this stuff. This is heavy. This is super heavy. You said something right now, like your father was supposed to be the example for you as a man. That is the number one motto I have and mantra I have as a father. Will I be the man I want my daughter to marry one day?
Yeah.
So I take that on wholeheartedly. But you guys have to be ready for this information. It's going to be hard to hear. It's going to be hard to listen to and just really dissect. But I promise you, we're going to be better for it. So, anxious. As I pull out the notes, and Kiaundra, I know you just went over, a couple activating strategy for an anxious attachment style is thoughts and feelings that compel you to seek closeness with your partner. You're only remembering your partner's good qualities and ignoring their flaws. Who can relate? Overestimating their qualities while underestimating your own, needing constant reassurance from them, believing your partner is your quote-unquote soulmate, and being unable to let go of your partner. I'm assuming they mean when it's a toxic situation.
Yes.
Would you agree with some of these definitions?
I would agree 100%, but I think the main one, especially speaking from a woman's perspective, is, was it the third one? About
needing constant reassurance from them?
Needing constant reassurance.
Okay.
That is the one I think, I'll speak for myself.
Please do.
And also what I've seen in my clients, right? So that means, and I don't know if that was like, probably because we're talking about TikTok. Probably seen it on TikTok. But like these attachment styles, when you think about it, it really, like, it can be played out in very humorous ways. Yeah. But it's real, you know? And so it could consistently be you texting him all the time or your partner, you know, to see where you're at, or do you love me? Oh, it was a TikTok where like every 3 seconds the woman was like, but do you love me? But do you love me?
Yeah.
That we walked in, but do you love me? And you know, you just need that extra reassurance, even though your partner's like, I love you, like chill. Yeah. And so it shows up in crazy ways.
Yeah.
And it also makes you look crazy. And I'm sure probably from a man's perspective, you would probably be looking like, yo, relax.
Well, it's I mean, I hate that men call women crazy, but it's also men also say she's too clingy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge, anxious attachment style. But if you understand that is your partner's attachment, there's a lot of men out here who are anxious too. Don't get it twisted.
That's true.
If you don't understand, first and foremost, your attachment style and then your partner's, you guys are just going to be in this vicious cycle of a back and forth with no clear-cut understanding and damn sure no clear-cut communication.
For sure.
And it's going to be a rough ride. There's a couple more things for the anxious is committing to a person that is rejecting you is in the reality a way of not committing. So when you're attracting unavailable people, unconsciously, the avoidant, really quick, doesn't want to move on, but the anxious person just wants to know that you're here and that you can move forward and that you can commit and you can give me reassurance. So,
which is why it's a dance.
It's a dance.
Right? Between the anxious and avoidant.
Speaking of the anxious and avoidant, those two attachment styles, for a lot of reasons, attract each other.
Correct.
Let's go over the avoidant attachment style. I'm raising my hand. If you're listening, that's your boy. Okay? I'm working on it. Here's some signs of an avoidant attachment style. Are you easily annoyed by your partner? Do you feel the need to escape when things get too close? Is it too uncomfortable to say, I love you, even though it's probably time and you know deep down you feel that way? Is it a burden to hold their hand? And also, as I don't even need these notes right now. I can talk freely from experience. When things get too close, as I said earlier, I have a fear of intimacy. I go into a self-sabotaging because I think I'm self-protecting, which is a false sense of reassurance, because I take control. And I always said last week, I am sitting and guarding and the man of this exit door. That's an avoidant. We're so scared that you're going to leave us. I don't know this is not a fact. This is just my truth, my experience. Because of my abandonment issues and neglect, I fear people leaving me. That's also anxious as well.
It is.
And so when you have this common thing in common, whatever, I can't even talk right now, but when you have this thing in common as an anxious and an avoidant, you can kind of gravitate towards one another because you do share that. Mm-hmm. But the avoidant's not going to commit to that.
Absolutely
as
not.
much as the anxious would.
And you know what I feel about avoidant attachment styles? I almost feel like there is this fear of intimacy, but deep down inside, that's the very thing that you long for, right? And so it's like you're pushing away the thing that you want the most. And I think most people just don't know how to reconcile the two, you know? And it's hard to just say like, yes, I just want you to love me. You know, I just want to be intimate with you. And we're not talking about sex. It's just that closeness, you know? And that's hard. Yeah. That's really hard.
It's hard. I mean, and for men too, if you guys are listening or watching, it's okay to admit that maybe sometimes your feelings were hurt. Or maybe sometimes I'm scared to commit, not in a self-sabotaging way, but because I genuinely don't know how. Yeah. But it's important to really own your attachment style so that you can become aware of it, so that way your partner can become aware of it.
I agree.
There are so many ways to...
being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable. Really Thank you. Transparent, all the above. In this book, it says if you are an anxious attachment style, if you are an avoidant attachment style, and you're in a relationship, there are ways to reconcile, to try to make it work. However, odds are, like a very large percentage, the chances are it's not going to work. If you're an anxious and you're with an avoidant, if you're an avoidant and with an anxious, odds are it's not going to work.
And I think what we're doing right now is we're putting language to the things that most people are experiencing, but they just don't know.
They didn't know that
like
was
they're
that.
In this dance, this battle with their partner of like, I want you here, but
I know.
Back and forth, right? And they don't know why this is happening. It's because of the attachment styles. Like this is literally the reason. And so that's why it's important to dive deeper into this. And I hope that people who are in a relationship, they have the capacity to be open enough to even just take a quiz.
Yeah.
Like just take a quiz.
Let's just start there.
That's it.
And I promise you,
Step one.
I'm also going to put, I watched this great YouTube video this morning it was a recap of the book. It was 12 minutes long. I know you guys got 12 minutes in your life. You guys can watch this and it'll all make sense. And I promise, sent it to 3 people this morning. They sent me screenshots that they bought the book. So I promise you're going to love it. I just want to go in really quick. If your partner has an avoidant attachment style, odds are he or she are sending mixed messages. Yes, I definitely did. Longs for an ideal relationship. Desperately wants to meet the quote unquote one. Yep. Disregards your emotional well-being. Says you're too needy, sensitive, or overreacting. He or she ignores you if your words inconvenience him or her.
That right there.
Okay.
That hit me.
It's my turn again.
That hit me.
Let me come correct. That was me. When I would argue with the woman I was with, I would dismiss any and all things she would say. Sadly, any and all things she felt, because it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what are you talking? You're overreacting. This is stupid. This isn't even the problem here. This isn't even what I'm talking about. But that's what they're talking about. This is their perspective. You can't argue or dismiss how someone feels.
Absolutely. Ever.
You can't. So I got to take ownership
truth,
of that.
right?
Exactly. Let's talk about dating as an avoidant / or an anxious. Date someone the anxious types, they want closeness. But the avoidants want distance. Anxious types are sensitive to signs of rejection. Avoidants send mixed signals and come across as rejecting. Anxious types want to know where the relationship is heading. Avoidants like to keep things foggy.
Literally like the complete opposite of one another.
Oh, I know people right now are like, damn, Justin, come on, man. That's how you feel? Well, that is how I feel because these are the facts.
Those are #facts.
So we gave you anxious, we're giving you avoidant, but let's give the secures their flowers right now, okay? Secure types are usually already taken.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
And the reason is because they stay with their partners for long periods of time, leaving more avoidance available.
That was like when I read, and that was a game changer.
Yes.
That is a game changer because when you're anxious and when you're avoidant, you're trying to do better and be better. But your goal is like, I want to be securely attached and I want to be with someone else who's securely attached. But if a wide majority of those people are already booed up, it's like, well, where they at?
And if the avoidant can't commit, guess who's open and available?
There you go.
For the short term, right? For the short term.
Yep.
Here's the other fact.
But there's hope.
Yeah, there is hope. There's hope.
There's hope.
And I would think the hope is, like, for example, I dated someone who was a secure, and at the time I was a heavily avoidant. Well, she became available because I avoided the relationship. Okay, so they are out there. Okay, here's the other thing.
That's a good one.
When a person has a secure attachment style, they feel confident in their relationship and their partner. They feel connected, trusting, and comfortable with having independence and letting their partner have independence as well, even as they openly express love. They reach out for support when they need it, and they offer support when their partner is in distress. We need more secures out here.
We really do. Can you imagine, though? Just think about what it feels like to be in a relationship with someone.
I can.
Imagine.
I thought you meant me as a secure. I'm like, I can't.
No, I just mean like imagine. Like
I have that.
You being that and then being with someone who's also that. Like how beautiful. Not perfect again, but just how beautiful that is, where it's just not the daily ups and downs, highs and lows, gives and takes. Like that's just...
Well, the thing is thank God my wife is secure. And yeah, let's honey, here are your flowers.
Yes.
Shout out to my wife.
Shout out to Shay.
Oh, thank you. I just okay. So a whole nother moment. But let's talk about how do you date a secure? How do you date an avoidant? It's easy to answer the secure one, but how do you date an avoidant? How do you date an anxious? If you are a secure attachment style, I personally don't have any answers because I am not secure. I don't know if you wanted to.
I kind of feel like, I feel like if you're securely attached,
yeah,
the other attachment styles would be a massive turnoff for you, right? Because they're just not meeting your needs. And I don't want to think about it in levels, right? But I feel like secure attached is here.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, anxious and avoidant, we're here with it. It's just like, you're kind of not on my level. You know what I mean? And so it's like, why would I really want to date someone where there's going to be gives and takes, and you're going to be worried about, you know, and I have to reassure you all the time.
Right.
And, you know, it can be emotionally exhausting to be with us.
Well, let's, I'm pretty sure my wife would allow me to speak on her behalf right now. Yes.
There you go.
She would agree with you. It's difficult to be with an avoidant. It's difficult to be with an anxious attachment style. Everyone is always so curious as to, I always say, Shay was able to hold space for me while I got it together. And she answered one time and she said the biggest reason why I knew I could hold space for Justin, so the biggest reason why I secure can hold space for an avoidant and or anxious is because of all the work that I was consistently putting in.
Yep.
Showing up day after day, doing the work, having results from the work, answering some of her questions, reassuring her that, listen, this is not just a potential thing. This is a reality. Just give me a little bit more time. So that's the hope out there for all the secure attached. Like, well, we're just supposed to stay single and or hope we find another fellow secure. Like, no, because in the book, it talks about the secure attachment style is the only attachment style that can be with all three. The only one. I have down here, avoidants do not date other avoidants.
Period.
Anxious will date other anxious. I don't know if you've ever dated another fellow anxious.
I actually haven't.
Okay.
Because again, most men are avoidant.
Well, right.
But I haven't had not the opportunity, but I haven't dated someone else that was anxious, no.
So I want to ask something because I don't really know the answer, but can your attachment style change while you're in the relationship? Like love language is another huge book. I'm Gary Chapman,
my favorite.
huge component of.
Yes.
Your love language can change. They change in time, and they also can change depending on your partner. Do you think that's the same for attachment styles?
At first, I thought that was like impossible, right? Because this is like rooted in childhood. It's just so deep. It's just like, nope, that's just the way that you are, and will potentially always be, right? If you are willing to put in the work, then you can shift and change. But if you're not, then that's just going to be you. But I came into contact with a client recently, and it was a very interesting scenario where I felt like, and we both acknowledged that her attachment style shifted based on the partner that she was with. Originally, she was with someone who I would say he was avoidant.
Yeah.
She was very anxious. And I mean, that's all our sessions consisted of, was like, I think he's going to leave me. I don't know if he loves me. I went through his phone. I think he likes this other girl, you know, and it was just like crying, and it was just like anxious, right? To the T, textbook. And that relationship ended because he had, long story, that relationship ended, and she got with someone else a few months later. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a rebound relationship because it was so close to the other one.
Right.
But I was like, let's see what's popping with this guy.
Okay. So
she dates someone new, and this guy shifted her whole style of attachment.
Wow. Was he secure, I'm assuming?
I'm 100% sure he was secure.
Yeah.
But he was emotionally available. He affirmed her. He shared his thoughts and feelings. He was present even when he was busy. I mean, they had a lot of similarities when it came to, you know, the things that they enjoyed doing. And I noticed a shift in her. Our sessions were not filled with crying and drama and I need to look through his phone and all of those things. It was just like, wow, this is what we're doing this weekend. And, you know, and I haven't worried about if he's going to cheat, or I have no need to go through. Like, it was just complete night and day. And I was like, ooh, this is possible. I don't know if it happens for everyone, right? But I knew that it was possible. Yeah. And she's like a textbook. She's like a case study.
Yeah. That's beautiful because it gives hope.
It does.
You know, it definitely gives hope. And also too, like I had a little bit like, with the going through the phone, just to clarify, like when an anxious attachment style is with an avoidant and you're pushing and pressing and doing everything to irritate, that avoidant, like poking at the giant, at the bear, so to speak, it's not going to be good. Most avoidants, I'm only speaking from personal experience here, again, are always in control of that exit door. And also, let me add, are most of the time looking for a way out. Already.
He never found out, by the way, that she looked through the phone, because women are great at being sneaky. But
if you get, it's just one of those things. So it's like, if you're hopeful that the relationship's going to work, don't do everything in your power to really feed into what you shouldn't be doing. The other thing I want to add too is avoidants unconsciously look for anxious partners because they make them feel superior. Here's another trait for the avoidant. The ego is way too big for their own good. The pride is way too big for their own good. And if you do anything to jeopardize those two, the avoidant's out.
Yeah.
It is a whole wrap.
Yeah.
I want to go into ways that we can maybe just, again, help the people who have any of these attachment styles. What I looked up was there's a 3-step process, and one was be specific. You want to be very specific with what it is that you are, your attachment style, what it is that you need and you're desiring, and then understanding your partner's same in return. Don't blame. I think what they're referring to with the don't blame, if I can relate to it, is, again, this stems in large part from childhood. So just be careful, right? Because if the person is just totally unaware of where it stems from, like, I have such a soft spot in my heart for them, because, you know, it's so deep rooted, so heavy that they're not even like on the atmosphere of that. The third thing is be assertive and unapologetic. That perfectly leads me into the unapologetic. I want to go into, I'm sorry, did you add some? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Let's continue, because you're going in the direction that I'm like about to go into.
Okay. I get so passionate. I get caught up, and I'm like, I have a guest here. Let me let you speak. So the one thing I wanted to really hone in on here is the woman and or man who knows you're with an attachment style that it's just not going to work. But you either A, don't know how to have this uncomfortable conversation with them, or B, you keep allowing that person to treat you how they want to, and you're lacking some self-worth. Floor is yours.
The self-worth piece is massive.
Yeah.
Because you have to know yours, and you have to be secure in it, and you can't play with that.
Yeah.
Because what you allow people to do, they will do time and time again, right? So when we talk about self-work, we're talking about self-love too. We're talking about how we value ourselves. It's also inclusive of boundaries. Like, it includes so much. But when you allow people to keep doing the same thing over and over to you, and you know that it's not good, it's not healthy, toxic, or whatever the case may be, they're going to keep doing it because you've allowed them to do it. But when there comes a point where you're saying, no more, this is my line, this is my boundary, you're probably going to get a little bit or a lot of bit of pushback. But at the same time, you're not lowering your standards, and you know what you deserve. And I can speak to this from a personal perspective, because this literally just happened to me in a dating situation. You guys are getting stuff hot off the press, JD. Like,
I appreciate you.
Fresh.
You heard it here first. Go ahead.
I was dating someone. I'm having anxious attachment style. He appeared to also be avoidant.
Okay.
But there was repeated times where this man consistently did not keep his word for me. I value, just one of my values in general is being consistent, being honest, and being trustworthy. I value those high.
And they should be simple things.
There should be for anybody. Those should be anybody, but that's just me. And I value them very highly. And so if it's like, if you're courting me and you're pursuing me and you say you really like me, like, just keep your word.
Right.
Like, you say you're going to come see me, you
should
probably show up, literally show up. And if you can't, you should probably call me, communicate, and say, hey, something came up. I'll make it up to you. That's healthy. That's secured, right? And so consistently just didn't show up for your girl.
Yeah.
And he's fine. Ladies, this man is fine. Okay? I mean, I'm a taller female, so I like a good tall, dark skinned, bearded, chocolate drop. He just met all the physical aspects of that.
Yeah.
And it was easy for me to continue just to stay with it, right? Because he's so fine. I'm just like, but dang. And I literally, this was the battle internally for me. It was like, but he's so fine though. He's not consistent, but he's so fine, But there came a line for me where it's just like, is this how I want my partner to show up for me? No. How can I be America's #1 relationship therapist with a jacked up relationship?
I appreciate that accountability.
I'm not doing it, right? And so it was a little heartbreaking for me too, because I'm in a space in my life where I'm a single female, right? Definitely looking to be partnered and to get married. And so when you think you found a good match and then it turns left, it's tricky. And so that self-worth had to arise in me, because I just knew that this would be so detrimental to me long-term if I didn't draw the line in the sand. And so the line in the sand wasn't just like, okay, you need to do better and then come back when you make improvements. It was like, I don't think you're someone that I want to be in my life, period. Because if you can't date me appropriately, you probably are not going to be a good, trustworthy, consistent friend. And so I had to make the decision to say, you're done, right? And so I had that conversation.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Please continue.
I had that conversation. It wasn't easy for me.
Yeah.
It felt like he didn't understand. Like it wasn't registering to him. Like, well, why would you not
be
with me?
Can I give you something?
Please.
He's not used to being told no. The way you described him, he's not used to hearing no from women.
You're right.
He's not used to rejection, especially at the elevated way you articulated everything. It definitely went over his head. And he was also thinking, it's all good, I'll find someone else.
Oh, absolutely.
Next.
Absolutely.
That's what he was thinking.
But there is no, JD, there is no other Kiaundra Jackson out there. He can never find another.
Let him know. There's only
so
one
you're
you.
lost, sir.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, my hope, literally, and my prayer, because I was just like, I need to pray to get this away from me, is that he will come to a conclusion and a better understanding of himself, and he'll take what I said and at least think about it. Sure. Hopefully the next woman or whatever he'll do better with. Maybe I just needed to be that sample or example for him. Yeah. But that was the goal. And so ladies, it's important to know your self-worth. Do not let a man or any other woman, whatever your sexual preference is, devalue you to the point where you have nothing left. Because I think so much we give. And at the end of the day, we have nothing for ourselves.
Well, you can't pour the glass of water if the glass is empty.
Period.
Right? Something that I can definitely attest to.
Can I say something real quick before you? It just reminded me of another analogy that I give to my clients when it comes to men. And it's like they like to give us these little crumbs, these bits and pieces. It's not a whole meal, but it could be enough to snack on.
Enough to hold you over.
There. Enough to hold you over, And we have to have enough strength to say these crumbs are no longer sufficient for me. I deserve a whole 5-course meal at the best restaurant ever, right? And these crumbs are just not cool. Yeah. And you can have your little crumbs. Yeah. I don't want them. They're not serving me. And so, ladies, don't settle on the crumbs.
That's powerful. And I'll remember what I want to say, but I also just want to keep going with this self-worth. I love that I'm able to have a woman on the show who is preaching self-worth and a value system, because I can only do so much for women, and this is very important. There's a lot of DMs, a lot of messages, inquiries I get about self-worth for women. I'm like,
can't help you
there. Can only do, And so that's so powerful what you said, because a lot of times I speak to these women, and the common thread is basically they know they want to leave. They're looking for me essentially for the hard truth, and or to let them know, no, there's hope, because they're like, JD, I want him to be like you. You said you struggled back then, and now here you are today. Maybe he could be that. And I'm like, girl, look, I wanted this.
That's the key.
You can't force this out of me, whether you're my wife or you're whoever. you can't. I have to want this. He has to want this consistently. Because when it got hard, there were a lot of times I was like, you know what? Those single days weren't that bad. You know what I'm saying? I like being
Shay
alone.
was like, no.
And then I thought to myself, instead of reacting on those emotions, and God forbid making a permanent decision on a temporary feeling, I had to step into my value system. The thing that I was going to say about your personal experience with your Avoidant chocolate drop. The thing is, when you are so good at getting your exterior together, you got the 6-pack going, your skin game is right, your skincare routine is right, you got the nice car, you know, I know how to articulate myself. I know my red wines and my whites, you know what I'm saying? I know the restaurant game. When you're so good at just finessing the exterior, it's a distraction to not be exposed on the interior.
Yeah.
I only know that because that was me. That was me. I bought the nice car. I bought the nice clothes. I bought all the smell goods. I was going to distract the hell out of you.
So good.
I was going to pump fake you that you're like, I don't even hoop, but I want to shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was going to do it all because it was going to totally take you away from exposing my flaws, my imperfections, my wounds, my triggers, my bad habits. And I got away with it for a long time because of my looks, because of my mouthpiece, because of all that I brought to the table externally. And then I met my wife. And it's a whole nother episode. But basically, Shay said without saying, what else you got?
Ooh.
Kiaundra. I said, what you mean? This no good? I got this. No, that's great. What else?
I love it.
I was stuck. And she might as well have said, this is great. But what I'm not going to fall for is this again. I'm not falling for the shiny objects anymore. Because as J. Cole so beautifully said, everything that glitters ain't gold. So.
Wow.
I know. Okay.
I think to sum up that section,
please.
like I would honestly say, and it's so cliche, but like when a person shows you who they are, like just believe them.
Kiaundra, are you watching my episodes?
I do watch
but that's what your boy constantly preaches. People will show you who they are. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe them.
And honestly, I don't believe that you should, like, when someone does something that you don't like,
no.
you should just drop them the first time, right? We're talking about repeated behavior,
right.
No change, no progress, no nothing. Then it's just like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Everyone around you's like, girl.
Like, we've been
you still complaining about this?
What?
Yeah. Come on, bro. What?
Exactly.
I want to quote something you sent me on Instagram. And the source is connecting to love, the number 2. Connecting, the number 2, love. The reason you are so inclined to fight for a pointless relationship is because you're trying to heal your attachment wounds, not save the relationship.
Ooh.
When you're anxiously attached, you can't handle any form of disconnection. To soothe the pain, you fight tirelessly to repair. Even if the relationship is toxic, you fight for connection.
I honestly feel like I don't even have anything to say about that because it's just so good the way it is. And that's why I sent it to you, right? Yeah. Like, I feel like the universe knew we were having this conversation today.
They're like, here,
and last
this.
night when I'm just scrolling aimlessly, I was just like, oh, this is good for me and JD's conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Forward.
Oh, yeah. So.
It's not even about the relationship. It's about healing that attachment wound.
I always say on here, you repeat what you don't repair.
Facts.
So I have a personal selfish question for you.
And I might have an answer for you.
Great.
Curveball. Is this in the notes? I'm just kidding.
I think it is. I think I'm a relationship therapy, just overall therapy junkie. I think I have like I'm a crack addict. I have like a serious problem. Like, yo, Doc, you in the session? You good? You good at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? Okay, cool. I'll be ready. You know what I mean? And so my question is, can someone have too much therapy? I'm going to give you a little bit more time because I might be able to help you with some more context.
Go for it.
The reason why I ask is because it's like one of those things where when you're a kid and you're trying to ride a bike, you keep the training wheels on as long as possible until your mom or dad or whoever is like, okay, Junior, okay, little lady, it's time to take off these training wheels. You're ready to get out there. And if you fall, it's okay. You're going to get back up. Make sure you got your elbow pads on, your knee pads on, your helmet on. I felt for a long time like I was riding the bike on training wheels in therapy, and I was so afraid to take off the training wheels. I'm not going to ever stop going to therapy, but I was doing like 3 sessions a week. Is there such a thing as too much therapy to where you create this bubble around you where you're like, I can't go out there and try to see if this, because I don't want to get, I came from a large, so can you have too much therapy?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to say this in my language, but this is not therapeutic language.
Sure.
For the record, because people will try to come for me like, what?
Sure.
I have kicked people out of therapy before.
Okay. Like, take off these wheels, get out there, you're good.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, we have done enough work. You're in a great space.
Yeah.
You have the tools, the techniques, everything. You're good.
Yeah.
You're not perfect, but you're good.
Yes.
I'm always going to be here. You can come back,
Sure.
right? The door to therapy is never like closed and locked forever.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But I want you to fly, little birdie. I want you to go out and apply everything that you have learned in here. And let's just see how you do. Like, I want you to trust yourself enough to get out there, right? Now, I'm a firm believer that probably people should have therapy forever.
I agree.
But there may be a time period in your life where you're just like, you know what, let me actually get out there and see how I'll do on my own. Yeah. And if something happens, cool, you can come back to therapy, right?
Therapy's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But let's just see how you do, right? And I will call, and we will say that you have been successfully discharged.
You've graduated, so to speak. Yeah.
And what I've done for some clients who have especially when I've worked with them for a long time, I have clients that I've worked with for like 5 years, right? And we've had this therapeutic relationship. So there is a closeness there, right?
Sure.
I've weaned them off, right? Instead of having 3 sessions a week, we'll do 1. And then maybe we'll do once a month, right? And then we might skip a month just to see how you do for 30 days without me, you know? And then we'll see and evaluate where you're at. And if I still feel like, you good, sis, you good, bro, like, I will kick your butt on out.
Get out there and try
Some people have came back like, Kiaundra, I can't do this without you. Like, it just was an epic fail. And I'm like, come on back, baby. And then there's other people who just went out and soared, you know, and I've never talked to them again. But I just know that the work that we've done was so vital to them that they don't need me anymore. And it's a good not needing me anymore.
Of course, yeah. That's great. And it helps me put some things in perspective. And also makes me think, Eleanor Roosevelt has a great quote that says, it's a question. If you could do anything, knowing you would not fail, what would you try to do? I'm going to bring that to the context here because that's kind of how I live life, knowing I have 2 of the best therapists I've ever come across in my life. I kind of have this feeling, and I also believe nothing is a failure, everything's a lesson. But anyways, when I go out there and I take off the training wheels and I try things out, whether it's for myself personally, in my marriage, in the way I father, all these relationships that I have, if there is a lesson to learn, I'm like, great, I now have homework to take to my therapist. Like, okay, good. I got something else for you. I got something new. It excites me.
No, I get it.
I love getting answers to my questions. I love being able to understand what I feel, why I feel this way. And so that's kind of why I just continue to go to therapy, but also I get out there and don't have the training wheels on.
But you're like a therapist's dream too, because we get a lot of people who are so against it or are there for the wrong reasons or mandated to be there for court or, you know, just all kind of stuff, right? That can happen. And so when we get somebody who wants to come happily pay us our rate and do the work, it's like, can every client be a JD? Like, please, you know?
Well, again, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are excited now to go to therapy and are excited to dive into it.
This. I hope so.
That's one of my final takeaways is if you guys, it's one of those things, I hate to be cliche, but if you're listening or watching this, it's meant to be kind of thing. But it's like, look, if you have been contemplating therapy, whether it's because your partner's suggesting it for you, or deep down, like, you know what, I think it's time. This was for sure for you rather, I'm sorry. And there are a lot of resources out there to find a therapist. I'll lean on you, Kiaundra, for that. Just a couple of resources, whatever you want to shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can probably add them to the show notes too, so people can get them. There's so many sites out there. I would definitely recommend going to Psychology Today. There is, if you're a person of color or looking for someone who is also of color as a therapist, there is therapyforblackgirls.com, therapyforblackmen.org. There is cliniciansofcolor.org.
Wow.
If you are struggling financially and can't pay at your full rate,
sure.
There is a website called openpathcollective.org where it's literally low cost $30 counseling sessions. I mean, that's just to name a few that are out there. So that'll be a good starting place. And if you have health insurance, that will be the number one place to start before you go to any of these other resources, because you may just be paying like a small out-of-pocket copay that's $10, $20.
Yeah.
So start there. Or your job.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. If you're in the corporate
employed,
world,
you could potentially have what we call employer assistance, which is EAP, where they give you free counseling sessions. So talk to your HR department to see what's available for your company.
I appreciate that. All this will be in the show notes below, I promise. One thing that I forgot to mention here in the episode, but I can't stress enough how important it is, and this hits home because it is me. I am it, okay? Two things. Back to the avoidant attachment. There's also layers and segments to avoidant, right? And here's one of them, the dismissive avoidant. These are people who have a hard time being open with others. They often reject emotional overtures from loved ones or potential partners. They self-isolate and can ultimately lead people to feeling relationships aren't worth the trouble. The fearful avoidant, this is me. This attachment style occurs in people who responded to a lack of bonding by becoming fearful of future bonds. Again, I mentioned the abandonment, the neglect. They do, however, often still want relationships because that's hopeful. In fact, they may actively seek them out, but when the relationship becomes too serious or the partner wants greater intimacy, the person with the fearful avoidant attachment may respond by withdrawing from the relationship entirely. That was me. I'm going to say this last line again. When the relationship becomes too serious or the partner is asking for a greater intimacy, the person with the fearful avoidant attachment may respond by withdrawing from the relationship entirely. Let me give you guys a hack here. I was the fearful avoidant, and the reason why I was trying to withdraw completely from the relationship is because I was so scared of being hurt. Here's what's a mind play for you. Unfortunately, I would never express that or show that. I would attack you. I would point out your flaws. I would tell you what you're doing wrong. I would pick and poke and all the above because I was protecting my ego, because I didn't want to get hurt. I had no problem hurting you, but I wasn't going to get hurt. This is the fearful avoidant. I know this is going to sound crazy, but the ones who are pushing you away are actually the ones who need you the most.
Yeah.
The ones who are doing everything in their power to eliminate you from their life, take that, I promise you, as a cry for help. I promise you it's a cry for help. I'm not saying to stay with that person. Hold some kind of space to try to be of some type of service to them. That doesn't mean stay with them. It could just be a distant outsource, whatever the case is. You can have a tough love situation, just don't enable. But usually the ones that are pushing you away are the ones that need you the most. They just don't know how to express that. I never knew how to ask for that. And even if I did, my ego and pride took over. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Arms crossed. I got this. I'm going to be alone. I don't need you.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And it's tough.
It's almost like a self-sabotaging behavior, right?
100%.
So it's like the very thing that we want.
Yeah.
We're like subconsciously ruining.
Yeah.
You know?
Because we're so scared to get hurt.
And you're like, see, I knew that I would never find love. It's just like.
Yep.
yeah, it's an interesting dance.
It's tough. And also too, it's just because most of the time, I think the fearful avoidant myself, that we wanted the guarantee without the risk. But
There's
that's not life.
Risk in love and relationships.
That is not life. Okay.
Relationships are risky.
They are, but worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Let's get into some fun stuff, some light stuff. This was a whole therapy session in itself.
Let's do it.
This is time for the rapid fire questions. You have no idea what these are.
Clearly I don't.
Surprise.
Yay.
These are
I love surprises.
5 questions that I purposely don't give people a heads up because I want just the raw reaction.
Rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a little long if you want to elaborate. Here we go. Question number 1. What advice would you give your teenage self?
I would say that your journey is not going to look like everyone else's, and that's okay. Even to become a therapist, like I didn't even know I wanted to be a therapist till I felt like what I would call the last minute. Like graduated high school, went to community college first, had no clue that I wanted to be a therapist, just taking random classes. Just random, you know. And it wasn't until my last semester, I literally took a marriage and family course.
Wow.
My teacher happened to be a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Wow.
Loved the class, loved the teacher. She just instilled so much into me. And then I just knew that was my path. So, but everybody else went to a 4-year college. I know what I want to do. And it's just like, that wasn't my story.
Sure.
And so there's more to it. But yeah, your journey is going to look different than other people. And that's cool. That's fine.
Okay. Question number 2.
Again, no coincidences in life.
Exactly. You make your own luck. Thank you. What's one experience you've had that you would consider life-changing?
The one experience which in the moment was the worst experience of my life, but looking back, game changer. And I recently shared this on TikTok.
Hey.
Follow me on TikTok, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was in graduate school, my first semester, I was one of very few people of color in my cohort that may or may not have played into what I'm about to say. But my professor told me that I would never be a good therapist. And she told me if I was going to be a good therapist, I would only be good at CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like one modality that's kind of sometimes looked down upon in the therapy realm because it's so easy to do, quote unquote. I was mortified, cried, was going to drop out. Didn't. Thanks to a few other people in my cohort who were just like, we all don't know what we're doing. We all suck, right now. And that was a game changer for me because I look back on there and I'm like, ha, ha, ha. I'm known as America's #1. You were wrong.
Don't make me grab the accolade sheet.
Send her this link to check it out. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And it makes me think of, I just said this the other day about, instead of saying rejection, let's say redirection.
Yeah, for sure.
You didn't get rejected. It just became that much more clear and that much more fuel was added to your fire and you got redirected.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Question number 3, what is one mantra or motto you live by?
I would rather for you to be 100% honest with me, even if it hurts my feelings. Tons of other mottos and mantras to live by, but I value truth and honesty at a very high level. And even if it's going to hurt my feelings, even if you're like, she's going to be so pissed or mad, sad, whatever the emotion is, be honest with me because I will respect you more. Yeah. Honestly.
There's a study I just recently read about uncertainty is worse than bad news. I'm going to unpack it a little bit.
That's good.
Uncertainty. Well, what's he thinking? Well, is she going to leave me? Or, well, what if I did? The what ifs of uncertainty and all that involves uncertainty, aka anxiety, is always worse than just the hard truth, or the bad news, or you know what, your flight is canceled. You probably want to get another one to get back home instead of delayed, rerouted. Yep. Just tell me if it's canceled or not.
Yep.
Just tell me how you feel. Uncertainty is worse than bad news.
That's a game changer. That's a golden nugget for me.
Okay, there you go.
Still in it.
Question number 4. What do you want to be known for when you leave this earth? Think legacy.
I feel like I'm already in that lane, you know, and like I want to be known for helping other people change the trajectory of their relationships and moving it into a healthier realm. Romantic or non-romantic, right? Like I wrote a book about family, friends, and coworker, you know, those types of relationships. It doesn't always have to be romantic, but just healthy relationships across the board. That's what I want to be known for. Like that's the legacy.
God, that's powerful. Yeah, I'm going to sit with that. That's powerful.
Because we're talking about, it's mind blowing when I think about it. But the reason why I'm so passionate about that is because of the generational shift that happens. When I do better, my kids are going to be able to do better. You know what I mean? And it's just like, whoa, when you think about it from that perspective, game changer.
When you think about that is in your control and you are responsible.
Yeah.
I love it. Last question for you. What does Kiaundra admire most about Kiaundra?
What do I admire the most about myself? Ooh.
This sole purpose of this question is self-love.
I admire my resiliency. Like the capacity that I have to take a hit and then somehow get back up and keep going. It's like out of this world. And it happens a lot behind the scenes that no one even knows about. All the no's that come with the work that I do or in this industry, you know, being in the, like, yeah, the capacity to get back up again, it's just, I love that about myself because I could just take an L and just lay there and just be like, see, I'm done with this forever. But I'm like, I'll cry for a day, give myself a little time to mourn that loss or whatever. And then next day I'm right back up doing it again. Like I think that's a quality that some will probably envy. You know?
That's very admirable. Admirable. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. 2 last things. I want to give you the stage right now. Where can people find you? I will put the links to all your books. I know you mentioned TikTok, but Instagram, website. Where can people find you?
So I am not accepting clients. JD's going to have the world bombarding my life. But you can check me out and visit my website, which is kiaundrajackson.com. You can follow me on all social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Kiaundra Jackson. And yeah, like I just have so many different things that I do. So no matter where you're on your journey, I'm sure that you'll be able to connect with some part of mine.
You're a one-stop shop.
For all the things. I have a joke with a friend. You say, you do all the things. And I'm like, yes, all the things.
Yes, I do. So the last thing is I always end every episode with a moment of acknowledgement. And AKA, this is me giving you your flowers while you're here. I want to acknowledge the amount of appreciation I know I can speak on behalf of all of your clients that I have for you of holding space for people, creating a safe space for people, especially men, to go to, for women and men. But when I say especially men, because we hold on to things, we suppress our feelings and our emotions, and it takes a lot for a man to basically tell you, I am comfortable not only talking to you, but listening to you. I so greatly appreciate that on behalf of all men. Funny you mentioned resilience. Funny you mentioned what you want to be known for, because I can relate to you, but I envy that about you and about all people, because it is our job while we're here on earth to do everything we can do to leave it a better place.
Yeah.
And you are a huge advocate of that. And I am extremely grateful for that and for you to be here and again doing exactly what you were meant to do. Like you can have success without fulfillment. You have both.
Oof.
That's very rare. Also, I just want to take the time to make sure that you understand, again, the impact that you're having on people's lives as a therapist. I'm sure you have saved many lives. I'm sure you have saved many marriages. And I'm not just talking about the ones that stayed in the marriage. I'm talking about the ones that left the marriage.
Wow.
So I'm extremely grateful for you and all that you do. Again, I can't thank you enough for blessing the show. This is my last episode in this space, and I had the perfect guest for it. So thank you for being on. Everyone, if this is something that you could relate to, or if this is something you know someone could relate to, please share it. I know I threw the like, subscribe, and turn off notifications here, but in all seriousness, I want people to understand what we're talking about. We want people to understand what we're talking about, because you will be better for it. Your partner will be better for it. Your friends, your family, everyone will be better for it. So as I always say, therapy for the win. And until next time, I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. So I always set intentions for every episode. The overall goal is to help people, no matter what. And I know we will, for sure. And again, I so gratefully appreciate you coming on. Dead serious. This is like one of those days where I'm like, this is why I do what I do, kind of thing.
I love it.
You know? So it's another day in paradise for me.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Of course.
For the record, I bombarded his podcast. I invited myself. He didn't invite me.
Oh, to finish that, I was going to say, you know what it is it's still imposter syndrome for me. You know, I'm like, you want to come on my show kind of thing? I don't realize that it's doing as well as it is and reaching as many people as it is. I don't know.
Yeah, when I was like, I think I was on your stories, and you showed that screenshot of like your viewers and like where everybody.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, this is nuts,
wild.
yo.
I know.
Like nuts.
I know.
But in a good way. So that just really shows you like your impact.
Yeah.
And like who you're reaching, and you're doing some dope work.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you.